Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Corey, better known as the C-Man, and I want to welcome you to another edition of the C-Man's Cinema Sit-Down. I saw a movie yesterday. I really loved this movie yesterday, and I tell you, this movie, I think it's going to do some surprising things if you keep your eyes peeled come, like, award season. This thing, I wasn't expecting necessarily awards caliber stuff, but man, did we get awards caliber stuff. What are we talking about? Why don't you pull up a chair, take a seat. We are getting ready to dive in, spoiler free, into Barbie. And yeah, that's right, I was at the Barbie blowout early access screening yesterday. My theater was sold out, and I'd say half the crowd had to be on date night. Like, there were so many dudes in my crowd, even though the overwhelming majority of the audience was women. A third of that crowd probably had to be guys, and everybody was my crowd was so fired up when Nicole Kidman came on screen for the freaking AMC thing commercial that she's always in. Place went absolutely crazy. My crowd was having so much fun, but the thing that I really loved about my group was that men, women, kids, adults, everybody was locked in. Everybody was laughing together. Everybody was having a good time. And when you walked out of that theater, every single person that was in it had smiles on their faces. And that's all you can ever ask for from a movie. And a movie this good has to start with one person, and that one person is Greta Gerwig. I'll also throw in her husband Noah Baumbach here because he's on the script, and the script for this movie is insane. What Gerwig and Baumbach do as far as weaving these thin, tiny little needles, man, for, you know, all of the comedy that you build into what we've seen in the trailers, right? Like, the comedy is laugh out loud funny most of the movie. Yet for a movie that has you laughing as much as it does, this movie really connects on a lot of poignant things. And if you are not a fan of women, or, you know, find yourself as a man in a place where you look at yourself as a feminist, you probably won't like this movie, because this movie is extremely feminist. I can't say that the men are necessarily portrayed in the best light in this movie, but in the world that we live in, I think that Gerwig just nailed what she was going for, because we're looking at the world through the perspective of a female. And in this movie, we're looking at that world through the perspective of the stereotypical Barbie, which is Margot Robbie's character. And in Barbie land, what Barbie represents, what Barbie, you know, thinks it is accomplished for the world, is fascinating. And I think it speaks so much to the culture when it comes to Barbie, what was a positive thing that Barbie brought to the world, what were negative things that Barbie brought to the world. And the thing that I really dug about the movie is that it's not this generation of kids that are still championing Barbie or making a Barbie movie. It's that generation before. It's my generation, my parents' generation. Like, people who are parents right now, I think, have a little bit more of a connective tissue in their life to Barbie, because Barbie was probably a big piece of their life. And not so much so now, because of certain things that, you know, Barbie did represent that was a negative. And the way that the movie looks at that is just fascinating, while also juggling toxic masculinity, you know, how hard it is. I mean, America Ferrera has a monologue toward the end of this movie. It's everything that this movie is talking about, man. Like, what it means to be a woman and what it actually means, right? Like, what the way the world looks at women and what they're supposed to be responsible for and what actually happens. And the way that Baumbach and Gerwig navigate all of these really tricky, very, very, you know, layered, in-depth concepts. You do that so expertly. I mean, I had tears in my eyes multiple times, and yes, some of that was because I grew up with Barbies because of my sister Britt, and I couldn't help but wish she was in the theater with me all night. And usually I have an open seat. I didn't because it was sold out. I know she was still there, but it was one of those, like, growing up around Barbie in any way, Gerwig and Bomback just litter it with things that are just classic Barbie, that are funny, that are serious, that are poignant, that are entertaining. I mean, this movie just has it all. And at the end of the day, I genuinely believe that Gerwig and Bomback should be considered for an Oscar nomination when it comes to the script, and that Gerwig should be considered when it comes to directing, because what she pulls off with this movie, like I said, just from the script standpoint, is insanely impressive. But then when you put it on display, I mean, Barbie Land, we've seen it in the trailers. It is gorgeous. It's unbelievable. And everything that they're doing as far as Barbie and Ken, and just that entire history for what's put on screen is mind-blowing. And then when you bring them into the real world, Gerwig just sets up these scenarios and these situations for two actors that are just going to knock it out of the ballpark every single time. And the other people that are in the cast that they're littered, around them really do help boost their performances and really add to the story. And if there is a negative, I think, to have here, is Gerwig's made such a good movie that you kind of wish you could spend time with some of the other Barbie characters. Simu Liu's Ken, even Kingsley Ben-Adir's Ken, Issa Rae's Barbie, even though we get a lot of her, Kate McKinnon's Barbie, like, there are characters in here you wish you could get more arcs and things for, but that's not the purpose of the movie, right? And the story through stereotypical Barbie's eyes and Ken's eyes really does work for what you're going for, and I think what Gerwig puts on screen just connects, entertains, and, makes you sometimes stop in both awe and beauty of what's on screen, and then what they're talking about. There's some really interesting aspects of beauty behind the way Gerwig shoots things that actually sucks you into the serious stuff that we're talking about. I mean, there's a scene with Margot Robbie toward the back end that kind of has some of that, and it's one of the most poignant moments of the movie. And how all of this is impacting Barbie, going to the real world, being in Barbie Land, seeing some of the issues that she's seeing. You're basically giving her and Ken, who, sneaks along for the ride, existential crises that really create interesting things on screen. And I gotta give a shout out to the music on this one. The music is by Mark Ronson and Andrew Wyatt. The music and the soundtrack in this is phenomenal, and some of the soundtrack songs are so fun, specifically the one that Barbie wakes up to, and the way that they're able to utilize it and change it, specifically in the opening, is just, the music was so freaking good. But if it isn't Gerwig that we're really, really talking about, it's Margot Robbie and Ryan Gosling. These two give such layered performances and such depth to their characters. I think both of them could be in conversations come award season, because it's so much more than just a comedic performance. Like I said, because of the things that Gerwig is juggling, these two got to bring a lot of depth to a pair of IP characters that don't necessarily have a lot of depth. And seeing the world through Margot Robbie's Barbie's eyes, like I said, is something that's so enjoyable. The world that she comes from, it's the kind of world I kind of personally would like to live in, man. I mean, women are badass. They freaking do run the world. I don't care what anybody says, man. And, you guys were built to be the superior sex. And seeing how that translates inside of Barbie Land, and then seeing how that messes Barbie up, right? One of the coolest things I think Gerwig does is what causes all of this, the domino that starts this whole story and journey. And the way Robbie is able to just enjoy life, and then as things start to shift, you see her start to question things and be confused, and why is this happening? And then you're basically given an adventure to go on to fix it. And coming into the real world and realizing that it is so different, it's heartbreaking at times. There are so many heartbreaking moments for Barbie in this movie, and you just feel every ounce of emotion and thought that Margot puts into this. I know she's the main producer. She brought this to the studio and said, this could be $1 billion movie easy, and I think it could, man. The way the pre-sales are going, the way the crowd was last night, and the way I expect it to be all weekend, this thing is gonna hit. And on the opposite side of that, you got Ryan Gosling. He plays airhead, completely lost in the world without Barbie Ken perfectly, but the impact of the world, the real world, on Ken, creates a completely different existential crisis for that character. And Gosling, dude, he's got so much depth in this. Like he's operating on emotional levels, and like it's one of these where like you have a powerhouse in Robbie, and you're not expecting Gosling to match her beat for beat throughout the whole movie, but he does. And when we finally do dive into some of this stuff that we're talking about when it comes to men and Ken and the representation there, Gosling's journey is just fascinating, and he absolutely crushes. And for me, that's what this movie is about. It's about those two. And then you got a bunch of people that show up that are really, really good around that, right? In the Barbie world, I mean, Emma McKay, friggin' Dua Lipa, Alexandra Shipp, Rito Aria, Issa Rae, pretty much everybody that shows up that is a Barbie, I love. And it's one of those, I just wish we could have gotten more from that group. And the same thing on the Ken side of the world. I mean, I really wish we could have spent more time with Simu Liu. I would have loved to spend some more time with John Cena. One of the biggest laughs and cheers of the whole movie is when Cena finally shows up. I love that guy. And I really dug Kingsley Ben-Adir. This dude is everywhere right now, and he's an awesome Ken. And he's all like that's the other thing. I love the small differences that the actors bring to each version of Ken or Barbie, and how they represent those characters on screen is just so well done. But outside of the Barbies, gotta give shout outs to Helen Mirren, who narrates here. She's just got the perfect voice for that type of stuff and absolutely crushes the narration, and also has one of the funniest moments in the movie. There is a narrate drop that comes a little out of nowhere and kind of references something directly. There's some third wall breaking in this movie that I burst out loud laughing. So I absolutely loved her. Ariana Greenblatt and America Ferrara play a mom and daughter in this. They are great. I love seeing Sasha's side of things, Ariana Greenblatt's, as she represents the younger generation that's kind of dealing with Barbie, and then America Ferrara represents everything that I grew up with. You know, that's the character in the real world that I'm able to connect with from a Barbie enjoyment standpoint, and she absolutely crushes it. And like I said, she's got a monologue toward the end of this movie that's unbelievable, and their two interactions with Margot Robbie's Barbie is fascinating. And before I almost forgot, friggin' Kate McKinnon's Barbie, oh my good God. Like, she is one of the funniest people in the entire movie. The gimmick thing that is going on with that character is absolutely hysterical. And I love that the opposite counter, kind of, to her Barbie is Will Ferrell's Mattel, CEO, COO, like, well, you know, one of the people in upper management. And I love Will Ferrell's performance in here. I think he's pitch perfect for what they're going for. And I think a lot of people have had an idea of who he would be or the type of character he is. Not what I was expecting, but works perfectly inside the context of this movie. And then how Baumbach and Gerwig use all of these characters to create conflict and resolution in the movie is just fascinating, and all of them deliver expertly. So I loved Barbie. I have pretty much nothing to complain about. So why don't we get the Sea Maniacs up? Like I said, I mean, this is an Oscar caliber script from Gerwig and Baumbach. The directing is unbelievable. The music here is phenomenal, and the acting across the board is tremendous, with two leads in Robbie and Gosling that just knock it out of the ballpark in ways where, like, I'm sitting here going, I think a lot of people from this movie could get nominated for things come the end of the year. And it's funny, it's emotional, it's poignant, and there's a lot of takeaways from this movie, if you're paying attention, that are true and that the world still needs to address and fix. And feeling that energy last night was just something that I was really looking forward to, and I enjoyed every single second of it. 5 out of 5 Sea Maniacs on Barbie. This movie is phenomenal. If you were a Barbie fan, if you grew up with Barbie, even if you're not a Barbie fan, you gotta go see this movie. If you don't like feminist stories, maybe stay away. But everybody else, I tell you, Gerwig made this movie not just for Barbie fans, not just for women. She made this thing for everybody. And if you live in reality, I think this movie is going to connect in big ways. 5 out of 5 for me. Now I know what you guys are thinking. How big of a Barbie fan are you? How excited are you for this movie? In what ways, if you're not a Barbie fan, has Barbie permeated your life? I think if you are above the age of 25, Barbie probably had a somewhat significant role. And if you're under that age, what kind of role has Barbie played in your life? If you're not looking for this movie, I don't necessarily need to know why you don't want to go see it, but why is this movie not for you? And if you have seen it, keep it spoiler free. But what were you liking? What worked? What didn't work? Do you think this has any chance come award season in any category? Anything you guys got, man? Good, bad, indifferent on Barbie? Put it down below in the comments section. I look forward to talking to you down there. As always, if you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up. And if you're new, you want to come hang out with the C-Man anytime we're talking movies, TV, trailer, reactions. We've completed the first leg of Barbenheimer. Got Oppenheimer coming up. And then I am going to do a true to form Barbenheimer like screening where I'm going to do one and then the other. From what I hear, I don't think a back-to-back screening is probably the most ideal way to do this because Oppenheimer is extremely deep and dense and not fun. And Barbie, while it's got a lot of depth to it, is nothing but fun. And then the serious beats just really enhance what's going on. So you want to see how I feel after Oppenheimer? You want to see how I feel after 5.5 hours of film on screen? You just want to show a little love and support the old C-Man. Well, hey, come join C-Maniac Nation so you can do all those things, and you can do them simply by jumping over there, hitting that subscribe button, hit that little bell if you want those alerts, and until next time for the C-Man's Cinema Sit Down. I've been the C-Man. I'm signing off. Peace. Oh, you guys are still here. You snuck up on me. You must be looking for more of this guy. Well, I got 2 video options for you, man. Right up here and right over here. And if you want all those C-Man goodies, well, hey, come join the squad right on over there, and I'll catch you on the next one.